And it begins.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2020 heifers Range Cattle REC Youth Field Day. Today's presentation is going to be Feed and Stuff. My name is Prevatt. I'm a beef cattle and forage economist here at the heifers Range Cattle REC. So I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and let's get started talking about feed and stuff. Today we're going to cover supplemental feedstuffs. We're going to talk a little bit about forages, and we're also going to feed some cattle. Alright, so now let's talk about energy supplementation. So we have two energy supplements here that we're going to discuss. Our first supplement is corn, or whole corn, and our second supplement here is citrus pulp pellets. Okay, so for corn, our whole corn is going to be 88% TDN, or energy, and 9% crude protein. So it's an excellent source of energy for our beef cattle diets. We also have citrus pulp pellets. So obviously this is a byproduct of our citrus industry in Florida. Our citrus pulp pellets are going to be 79% TDN, or energy, and 7% crude protein. So it provides us with a good energy source in our beef cattle diets as well. Alright, so whenever we're thinking about energy, energy is going to be a crucial nutrient in all beef cattle diets. Energy provides the body with the ability to do work. For beef cattle, work is going to include growth, reproduction, movement, feed digestion, and for cows, that means lactation. Sometimes energy requirements are going to be needed in order to meet an animal's nutrient requirements. In beef cattle rations, we're going to express energy as percent of TDN, or total digestible nutrients. Protein, carbohydrates, and fats are going to provide the energy into beef cattle diets. When digestible energy becomes the limiting factor in our beef cattle diets, that's going to limit both intake and animal performance. Both of those will suffer. So for optimal animal performance in our beef cattle diet, it's going to take adequate amounts of digestible energy. That's going to be what's required. So let's talk a little bit about protein supplementation. So I've got 4 protein supplements here today that we're going to discuss. Now, each one of these protein supplementations are also high in energy, which is also very important, as we just discussed, for our beef cattle diets. So, our first supplement for us to consider is cottonseed meal. Our second supplementation is dried distiller's grains. A third supplement that we're going to look at is whole cottonseed. And our fourth supplementation that we'll consider is corn gluten feed. Okay, so let's go to our first protein supplement that we're going to look at here. Now, this is going to be cottonseed meal. Okay, so our cottonseed meal is going to be 76% TDN, which is our energy, and 41% crude protein. So this is an excellent feedstuff if we want to provide some protein to the diet, as well as getting some energy into our animals. So that's our cottonseed meal. The next supplementation that we're looking at here is our dried distiller's grains. Okay, so our dried distiller's grains here. Our dried distiller's grains is going to be 89% TDN, which is our energy, and 27% crude protein. So our dried distillers grains is going to have a little bit more energy than our cottonseed meal, but it's going to have a little bit less crude protein. So here's our dried distillers grains. The next supplement that we're looking at here is whole cottonseed. Okay, so looking at our whole cottonseed here, our whole cottonseed is going to be 95% TDN, which is our energy, and about 23% crude protein. So it's an excellent energy supplement. Out of all four of our protein supplements, whole cottonseed has a lot of energy. It also has adequate amounts of crude protein, at 23% crude protein. So that's our whole cottonseed. Our last protein supplementation that we're going to look at here is going to be corn gluten feed. So look here at our corn gluten feed. Our corn gluten feed is going to be 80% TDN, which is our energy, and it's going to be 22% crude protein. So it's got a good amount of TDN and a good amount of crude protein. It's a really good ration for us to meet both of those requirements.
Have you ever noticed molasses or that black, dark brown, sticky stuff in your cow's feed? Molasses is a syrup that is derived from raw sugar during the refining process. As you can guess, it is used in many cattle feeds. It is also used to supplement low-quality forages in the cattle's diet and has been used for years in Central and South Florida. Molasses is a protein supplement that is used for grazing cattle that is highly palatable and fed through a lick tank or in a tub traditionally. Molasses supplementation is very flexible as other feeds and products can be added to make it into a slurry. Adding other feeds or products allows producers to better meet the nutrient requirements of their cattle. As you can see, molasses is a very important protein supplement that is used here in South Florida.
It's a critical nutrient in all of our beef cattle diets. Sometimes protein supplementation is needed in order to meet animals' nutrient requirements. So in beef cattle rations, our protein is going to be expressed as crude protein or percentage of crude protein. Protein is one of the main building blocks of the body. It's going to be a major component of muscles, the nervous system, and connective tissue. Adequate dietary protein is going to be essential for maintenance, growth, lactation, and reproduction. Young growing cattle in particular need relatively high levels of crude protein in their diets to support muscle growth. Some signs of protein deficiency include lowered appetite, weight loss, poor growth, depressed reproductive performance, and reduced milk production. So having adequate levels of protein in beef cattle diets is going to be important for animal health and productivity, as well as ranch profitability. So as we're thinking about protein supplementation here, these options are going to be able to meet those protein needs that we have in our beef cattle animal diets. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit about fiber that's in the diet of our beef cattle animals. We have two supplements here that we would think about fiber getting into our beef cattle. We have cottonseed hulls, and we also have mixed grass pasture hay. So let's look at these cottonseed hulls. So our cottonseed hulls, they're going to have 45% TDN, 5% crude protein, and on crude fiber, they're going to have about 44% crude fiber. So it's really, really important for us to include that crude fiber in some of our growing rations if we're dry lotting. So we've got our crude fiber in our cottonseed hulls. Now, On a mixed grass pasture hay, such as this mixed grass pasture that we have here that we took some hay from, our mixed grass pasture hay is going to be 50% TDN or energy, 9% crude protein, and in terms of fiber, our acid detergent fiber on this mixed grass pasture hay was going to be 43%. So this also provided us with our fiber needs in our beef cattle animal diets. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about fiber that's in our beef cattle animal diets. Okay, so for fiber's all about keeping that rumen functional. So our cottonseed hulls, as well as our mixed grass pasture hay, is going to be very popular in dry lot situations because it's going to satisfy the roughage factor of the rumen. So for the rumen to work correctly, it's going to have to slowly degrade the fiber, and that's going to scratch the walls of the rumen to stimulate muscle contractions in that wall of the rumen. This keeps the contents of our rumen agitating, and that's going to be just like a washing machine that agitates. It's going to allow those microorganisms to attach to the material and begin fermentation. Now, obviously, in pasture conditions, forages that livestock eat is going to supply the fiber needed for the roughage factor in their diets. So, whenever we're thinking about fiber, these are two really important sources for fiber. All right, so now let's go out there to the pasture and look at some of the forages that our livestock commonly eat. All right, so we've entered into a perennial mixed forage pasture. Now, this perennial mixed forage pasture is predominantly bahia grass. So bahia grass, obviously, it's a warm season perennial grass. It's going to grow between early April through late October. It's going to put on a good bit of growth, and it's going to provide the nutrients for our beef cows. So this sward of bahia grass is mostly 50 to 55% TDN and 8 to 10% crude protein. If we can keep it in a vegetative state, young, growthy sward of bahia grass. If we're going to look at raising some replacement heifers or finishing some animals, it's okay to have them out here on these perennial mixed forage pastures, but we also need to provide them with some necessary supplement in order to get those animals to their target end weights. So again, perennial mixed forage pasture. Now let's go look at providing some supplement to those replacement heifers and finishing animals.
Minerals are another essential nutrient we need to make sure that we provide to our cattle on a regular basis. It is essential to have access to trace minerals. They are used for metabolic processes associated with growth, health, and reproduction, much like water is. Forage supplemented cattle or grazing cattle are often deficient in trace minerals, unless they are being supplemented with a feed or another mineral source as well. Feed and forage should be supplemented with trace minerals regularly. Several ways to supplement minerals would be through a free choice form, which an advantage can be they can be incorporated in your feed, or you can use it in a loose form and allow the animals free choice. However, a disadvantage of this process is you may over or under consume the minerals. You need a proper formulation for your animals, and there is an ongoing expense associated. Injectable is another form of mineral supplementation. Some advantage, you can guarantee what dose you are providing to your animals. This is a one-time cost, and it's easy to supply to your animals. However, on the disadvantage, you need to follow your BQA guidelines to ensure you're providing the injection in the proper locations. You must handle the animals on a regular basis, and you do have the potential to create toxicity in the animal. The final form of mineral supplementation we're going to discuss is through a block. A block is an inexpensive way to provide minerals to your animal, and you can move them throughout. However, disadvantages are they aren't a very viable source of minerals. A lot of times they provide more salt than mineral, and it is an inconsistent use by the animals. Mineral supplementation is a good management practice that everybody should be following. Did you know water is one of the most essential nutrients in the cow's diet? It is essential we provide a safe supply of water on a daily basis. In the cattle's diet, water is required for things such as body temperature regulation, growth. For those breeding stock, it helps in reproduction. And then after she's bred and has that calf, it helps in the forming of milk for the lactation, metabolism, mineral balance, and many more other functions. Intake varies throughout the time based on things such as dry matter intake, which could be linked to feed or hay, the outside temperature, the percent humidity in the environment, the different stage of production that the animal may be in, and many other factors. It is very important that we have a safe, clean, and cool water supply for our animals on a regular basis. If possible, take that extra step and clean out your water troughs when available.
Now what we were looking to do there is we wanted to make sure that they were going to have plenty of bunk space. And the other thing was we wanted to check them for the doe. You know, if we're only going to be feeding one time a day, we want to make sure that they're in good condition. There's not any serious problems there. We just want to make sure that they're good and healthy and they're ready for their next day of grazing, of performance, and of good activity in our cattle. All right, so we're out here. We want to supplement this set of replacement heifers right here. These are about 600-pound replacement heifers. We want to supplement them with about 3 pounds per head per day. So that's 0.5% of body weight. We're supplementing them with a ration that is 74% TDN and 18% crude protein. Again, we're going to give these 600-pound replacement heifers about 3 pounds. They're out here on Perennial mixed forage pastures, and they're going to get about 3 pounds of supplementation of a mixed commodity ration. So let's go ahead and supplement these replacement heifers. Very good. We've got all of them eating. They're getting their 3 pounds. That's wonderful. All right, so our second group that we're supplementing here are over 1,100 pound steers. So we're trying to take them to about 1,300 pounds, and we're trying to finish these steers. So we're providing them with a high energy protein supplement. Now these steers are getting over just about 10 pounds per head per day on a ration that is 82% TDN and 24% crude protein. So it's a very high energy, high protein supplementation that we're providing to these finishing steers. They're also on a perennial mixed grass pasture. So that's where the roughage is coming out of their diet. So let's go ahead and provide these steers with their supplementation. Excellent. We have bunk space for 4 steers here underneath the barn, providing them with shade and also provide some protection from the elements to our feedstuffs. So that's great. We've got all 4 head eating. Excellent. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. You know, we had a great day just talking about supplemental feedstuffs. We talked about some forages. We supplemented some replacement heifers and some finishing steers. You know, we had a great day. So thank you for joining us for the 2020 Range Cattle REC Youth Field Day for the presentation of feeding stuff. And as we summarize and we go back to, thinking about all the information we learned, we just like to finish the day eating a healthy, nutritious piece of steak. So we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we just hope you had a great day. You hear that Florida sizzle?
Now I'm going to welcome back our class teachers for today, Prevatt and Christa Kirby. Christa is a livestock agent over in Manatee County, and Chris is officed here at the Research Center, and he is a state specialized agent specializing in beef cattle and forage economics. Hi guys.
Hello.
We have a few questions coming in. Would y'all like to start with one of the poll questions just to kind of give everybody a chance to respond and check some knowledge?
I think that sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so our first question: if kept in a vegetative state, Bahia grass, a warm season perennial grass, commonly contains what percentage of total digestible nutrients or energy? So the first answer is 20 to 25% energy. Second one is 50 to 55% energy. Third one, 70 to 75% energy. And the last answer, 90 to 95% energy.
How'd they do, Chris?
They did great. So 56% of them got that correct. Bahia grass typically contains about 50 to 55% energy if we're keeping it in a vegetative state of growth. So it's in that 5 to 10 inches of Bahia grass growth. We keep it really vegetative. It contains good levels of energy to maintain our beef cows.
All right, here's the next one.
Okay, which supplemental feedstuff is commonly used as a protein supplement? Corn, gin trash, Bahia grass hay, or cottonseed meal? Once again, which supplemental feedstuff is commonly used as a protein supplement? Corn, gin trash, Bahia grass hay, or cottonseed meal? And 75% got it correct with cottonseed meal.
Awesome.
And this is our last poll question.
So true or false? Whole cottonseed is often used as both a energy and protein supplement for beef cows. The answer was true. So 80% of them got it right because whole cottonseed has over 90% energy and over 20% crude protein. So as a supplementation, in order to raise those energy and protein requirements, or better meet those energy and protein requirements, whole cottonseed is an excellent supplement. This can get expensive as we get down into Central and South Florida, but for producers in North Florida, this can be a common supplement that we utilize.
Okay, great. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Krista and Chris so they can respond to your questions in Zoom and on Facebook, and I'm just going to step away for a minute.
We just got a question about what's the best way to formulate the feed to know the protein and energy. You know, if it's not if we haven't received a truckload unit of something, or if we don't have details in terms of the energy and protein when we're purchasing maybe a bag or a tote of a feed stuff, we do like to have that tested. It's important to know if we're meeting those requirements, and it's really important to think about the forage portion of the ration as well. Think about what they're grazing, about how many pounds we're providing in terms of supplement, and think about how many pounds they're grazing per head per day, and really try to calculate that ration. You know, if you're getting started out with this, I'd really recommend you have your feed tested, make some considerations in terms of what the forage quality is out there, and then try to get with one of your county extension agents or 4-H agents that the Florida Cooperative Extension Service provides, and to try to come up with of where we are in terms of the nutrient needs and what we're providing as well.
Okay, one of our other questions was asking about if some types of hay are better than others. Hay is going to vary depending on how it's grown, the fertilization process that the producer has used. So you're going to have a difference in total digestible nutrients. And also you're going to want to look and see what the stem length is on that hay, because you can run into some train wrecks, especially with some of these show animals with short stem hay. It won't be able to be utilized in the rumen as much as the long stem hay and do what it needs to do for the rumen to keep that animal functioning properly.
Okay, so you know, we've got a couple questions here throughout this this webinar in terms of hay type, and really, you know, typically Bermuda grass hay can have higher quality in terms of energy and crude protein. Typically, we see this because typically Bermuda grass hay has better management. But yes, it can have higher energy and protein compared to Bahia grass hay. But again, it's going to be when that hay was harvested, as Christa just mentioned, at what state that hay was harvested has a lot to do. How mature that hay was whenever we start thinking about the potential quality. You know, for $7, we can get a hay test done, send it to our lab, the Range Cattle REC, to tell us the potential dry matter content of it, as well as the energy and crude protein, and that can be a really good investment for us if we're looking to know what portion of that ration it's going to be in our diets. So just in terms of is one better than the other, there's a lot of out there of hay quality. I look at some Bermuda grass and some Bahia grass samples, and I've got some Bahia grass samples from 2018 that were 3% protein and some that were about 20%. There's a lot more on the poor side than there is the premium side of Bahia grass hay. So there's a lot of variability out there. You know, Bahia grass hay, it's better if you've seen what was harvested, how it was harvested. We talk about knowing more information about the food you eat. It's kind of the same way in terms of whenever we're purchasing some hay products. Okay, so I just got another question about peanut hay or perennial peanut. And yes, obviously, peanut hay just depends on the quality, how long it was left out prior to rolling. If it is peanut vines, if it's perennial peanut hay, it is a premium quality hay, very similar to alfalfa. So it's a high protein, has very good energy, very similar to cool season annual forages, a little bit lower than cool season annual forages typically. Just depends on kind of where you got it and where it was harvested, but very good perennial peanut hay. If we're talking a little bit about peanut vines, just depending on what it's been sprayed with, typically it's not something that we can legally feed to beef cattle, depending on what it's been sprayed with and how recently it's been sprayed. That's just something that you'll have to analyze and evaluate on individual situation.
Christa, you have about 2 or 3 minutes to catch a couple more questions.
Okay. I'll just briefly run over a couple things. So Jamie just mentioned on what program to recommend to formulate the diets. I actually use a program that was released by NFREC by Nicholas DeLorenzo to formulate diets. It's a balancer. It's a feed balancer. There's so many out there to utilize. I've used a lot of ones that I've liked. That's just the one I'm currently using. Paige mentioned a little bit about having one of her steers that doesn't really enjoy eating out of that feed bunk. Everyone's got their personal preference, and I think it's just a situation where he maybe has determined that's how he's going to do things. That's very interesting. How much mineral does a cow need? Typically, we recommend 2 to 4 ounces per head per day. And so obviously there's going to be a salt limiter in that mineral. If they've been deficient in terms of mineral for longer periods of time, they're not going to be able to reach that 2 to 4 ounces per head per day. Or they're going to exceed it if they've been deficient for a significant period of time. During the winter months, obviously mineral consumption declines significantly as they don't even have a desire for the salt. So yeah, in terms of which feed type is best, a mixed ration. Whenever we look at feed types by themselves, if we just looked at whole corn or citrus pulp by itself, we want to make sure we're meeting energy requirements. Proteins, we can meet those very easily with feedstuffs. Really want to go after energy to really push those additional weight gains. But feed by themselves, I really like blended feedstuffs best.
All right, so now I would like for Christa and Chris to each have a minute to share a final remark.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time and visiting with us on the virtual Youth Field Day. Hopefully next year we will be able to be back in person and get back with our programming face-to-face with everyone here in the near future.
So yeah, whenever we're thinking about, supplementation, typically those periods when we don't have grass at a vegetative state in terms of beef cows during the winter, when they have they're lactating, they have young calves on them, they're going to need some additional supplementation. So, the overview of this video is the potential sources we can use for supplementation, and then just talking a little bit about the different levels that we can supplement some cattle at in terms of our replacement heifers, what our targets are. And so again, this is where we get started.
and then we have to take additional information and to make our best decisions with and work with others. That's what our county extension agents, as well as our state specialists, are here to work with you and try to improve the rations and the feedstuffs that we're providing.